Sometimes opportunities seem too good to be true, and healthy skepticism protects us from actual scams and fraud. But these people were so paranoid or clueless that they rejected massive amounts of legitimate money they legally owned and had every right to claim. 1. A man threw away a certified check for $450,000 from his aunt's estate because he thought it was a scam letter. The executor had sent the inheritance check via certified mail with official documentation. He saw the large amount and immediately assumed it was a Nigerian prince scheme. The check sat in his trash for 3 days before his neighbor rescued it. His aunt had specifically left him the money in her will. The law firm had tried calling him multiple times, but he'd blocked their number. His paranoia about scams had caused him to literally throw away nearly $500,000. The executor had to reissue the check after extensive identity verification. His family was horrified, learning he'd trashed a legitimate inheritance check. The reissued check took 6 more months to process due to his initial rejection. His decision to throw away the inheritance became family legend about paranoia. 2. A woman refused a $200,000 insurance payout because the amount seemed impossibly high for her policy. Her husband's life insurance had a double indemnity clause she'd forgotten about. The legitimate insurance company kept calling, but she hung up thinking they were scammers. The insurance adjuster had to visit her home with physical policy documents. She still refused to believe the payout amount was real, even with proof. Her lawyer finally convinced her the insurance money was legitimate after months. She'd cost herself 6 months of interest by refusing to accept the payout. The double indemnity clause was highlighted in her original policy documents. Her refusal to accept $200,000 in legitimate money became neighborhood gossip. Financial advisors had to intervene to explain insurance payouts were real. Her paranoia had nearly cost her the legitimate death benefit she'd paid for. 3. A teacher threw away winning lottery tickets worth $50,000 because she thought the prize notification was fake. The State Lottery Commission had sent official notification letters multiple times. She'd checked the numbers herself and matched all the winning numbers. Her assumption was that winning notifications were always scams. The tickets expired before she finally believed the prize was legitimate. The lottery office had her on security camera purchasing the winning tickets. The Lottery Commission showed her the video of her buying the tickets. The expiration date passed while she debated whether the prize was real. Her rejection of $50,000 in legitimate lottery winnings became local news. The legitimate prize money returned to the state lottery fund after expiration. Her family was devastated learning she'd thrown away winning tickets. 4. A man declined a $75,000 settlement offer, thinking his lawyer was trying to scam him personally. The legitimate court settlement was approved by a judge after years of litigation. He'd fired 3 different lawyers, all presenting the same settlement offer. His paranoia convinced him that all the lawyers were working together to defraud him. The settlement was legitimate compensation for his workplace injury. He represented himself in court, and the judge tried to explain the offer was real. His rejection meant continuing to live on disability payments. The statute of limitations eventually expired, making him ineligible for any compensation. His original injury case was strong, but his paranoia destroyed his recovery. The insurance company eventually withdrew the offer after his repeated rejections. His fear of being scammed cost him legitimate injury compensation he deserved. 5. A woman refused her company's stock options worth millions because she didn't understand how they worked. The startup she'd joined early offered stock as part of compensation packages. She'd worked there for 5 years, declining the stock options every year. The company went public, making her rejected options worth over $3 million. She'd signed forms declining the stock, thinking it was too complicated to manage. Her colleagues who accepted the options became millionaires from the IPO. The HR department had explained the options multiple times, but she refused. Her distrust of complicated financial instruments cost her millions. The company tried to reverse her declinations, but the paperwork was legally binding. Her decision to reject stock options was permanent and irrevocable. Her financial illiteracy destroyed her opportunity for generational wealth. The stock options were legitimate compensation she'd legally earned through employment. 6. A man rejected a $120,000 inheritance from a distant relative because he'd never met them and assumed it was fraud. The inheritance was legitimate from a great uncle who'd followed his career with pride. Legal documentation proved the familial relationship and legitimate bequest. He refused to respond to the estate lawyer's calls for 8 months. His great uncle had specifically chosen him after years of following his accomplishments. Family members confirmed the great uncle was real and the inheritance legitimate. He finally accepted after his mother flew to his house with family photos. The 8-month delay cost him thousands in investment returns. The estate lawyer had handled hundreds of cases but never seen such stubborn rejection. His skepticism about good fortune almost destroyed a legitimate windfall. 7. A teacher refused a $40,000 grant for her classroom because she thought educational grants were always scams. The legitimate foundation had chosen her specifically for innovative teaching methods. Official paperwork from the foundation included tax identification numbers and verification. She deleted emails and ignored calls from the foundation for 3 months. Her principal had to intervene to convince her the educational grant was legitimate. The foundation had never encountered a teacher refusing tens of thousands for their classroom. Her students lost out on technology and resources because of her paranoid rejection. The grant required acceptance within 90 days or would go to another teacher. Educational consultants confirmed the foundation was reputable with decades of giving. Her principal had to provide extensive proof before she finally accepted the grant. The delay in accepting meant some improvements couldn't be completed that school year. 8. A man threw away a $30,000 refund check from the IRS because he assumed it was a scam. The tax refund was legitimate due to an error in his previous year's filing. Official IRS letterhead and verification codes weren't enough to convince him. He'd filed an amended return that created a substantial legitimate refund. The check sat in his trash until his wife discovered it days later. His immediate assumption was that the IRS never sends large checks to people. His paranoia about IRS scams made him reject actual government correspondence. The check was recovered from the garbage and deposited successfully. The IRS confirmed the refund was legitimate and he'd earned it through overpayment. His wife's discovery of the trash check saved their financial situation. 9. A woman rejected a $90,000 settlement from a class action lawsuit because she didn't remember joining it. The legitimate lawsuit was for a product she'd purchased years earlier. Her purchase records showed she was an eligible class member. She'd thrown away the settlement notification thinking it was junk mail. The law firm handling the case had her in their database with proof of purchase. Her memory of purchasing the product had faded, but records proved her eligibility. The deadline for claiming the settlement passed while she ignored all correspondence. Legal experts confirmed she was entitled to the money based on purchase history. Her $90,000 share was distributed among other claimants after her rejection. The settlement was final and her rejection permanent after the claim deadline. 10. A man declined a $55,000 bonus from his employer because he thought it was a typo in the offer letter. The legitimate bonus was performance-based and clearly outlined in his employment contract. He'd hit all the targets required for the maximum bonus payout. His HR department tried to explain the bonus was real and he'd earned it. The bonus check sat in HR for 2 months while he refused to claim it. His performance had been exceptional and the bonus was entirely deserved. The CFO had to personally meet with him to explain bonus calculations. The employment contract he'd signed clearly stated the bonus potential. His colleagues were baffled by his rejection of legitimately earned compensation. The company had never dealt with an employee refusing their bonus payment. 11. A woman rejected a $150,000 wrongful termination settlement because she didn't believe companies actually paid them. The legitimate settlement was approved by the labor board after investigation. Her former employer was liable and the settlement was calculated based on lost wages. She'd hired a lawyer who negotiated the settlement on her behalf. Her refusal to accept the settlement payment shocked her legal representation. The company was ready to pay and wanted to close the case. The labor board confirmed the settlement was fair and legally binding. Her lawyer eventually withdrew from the case due to her irrational refusal. The settlement offer eventually expired, per the agreement terms. The $150,000 went back to the company after her permanent rejection. 12. A teacher threw away a $25,000 scholarship for her child because the amount seemed impossibly generous. The legitimate scholarship was merit-based from a well-established educational foundation. Her daughter had won the award through academic excellence. Official documentation included foundation tax identification and verification. She'd thrown away the acceptance packet thinking it was a scam targeting proud parents. The foundation had selected her daughter from thousands of applicants nationally. Her rejection cost her daughter 4 years of substantial tuition assistance. The acceptance deadline passed while the letter sat in her trash. Her daughter could have attended her dream school debt-free with the scholarship. Her rejection of $25,000 meant her daughter took out student loans instead. 13. A man refused a $80,000 insurance settlement for his car accident because lawyers offered it too quickly. The legitimate settlement was calculated by insurance adjusters based on his documented injuries. He'd rejected 3 different settlement offers thinking speed indicated fraud. His injuries were documented by multiple doctors and treatment was ongoing. Legal experts confirmed the settlement amount was fair for his injury severity. The statute of limitations approached while he rejected reasonable offers. The insurance company eventually withdrew all offers after his repeated rejections. His decision to refuse the settlement meant receiving nothing after the deadline. His refusal meant permanent financial damage from medical debt he could have resolved. 14. A woman declined $60,000 in back pay from her employer because she assumed the calculation was wrong. The legitimate back pay was court-ordered after a labor dispute. Her employer had been found guilty of wage violations. The calculation included years of unpaid overtime with interest accumulated. The court judgment was final and her back pay amount was legally determined. Other employees in the same situation had accepted their back pay without issue. The labor attorney tried to explain the calculation was verified by auditors. Wage theft experts said refusing back pay was irrational and extremely unusual. The employer wanted to pay and close the labor violation case. Her refusal kept the case open and the money in limbo indefinitely. 15. A man rejected a $100,000 gift from his parents because he thought it was a test of his character. The legitimate gift was part of their estate planning while still alive. His parents wanted to see him benefit from the money before they died. Official bank transfers and legal documentation proved the gift was real and permanent. His rejection based on test paranoia shocked his entire family. His siblings had accepted similar gifts and used them productively. The money sat in an account they'd opened in his name going unused. Estate planning attorneys confirmed the gift was part of normal wealth transfer. His parents' feelings were hurt by his refusal to accept their legitimate help. His family couldn't understand why he'd reject parental support he desperately needed. 16. A teacher refused a $35,000 grant to write a book because she thought publishers don't pay in advance. The legitimate publishing advance was standard for her book proposal's quality. Her literary agent confirmed the publisher was reputable, and the advance was real. She'd rejected the contract thinking any advance payment was fraudulent. Publishing industry standards clearly included advance payments for book deals. Her refusal to sign meant the publisher moved on to other authors. The advance was intended to support her during the writing process. Her assumption that writers don't get paid up front was completely incorrect. Fellow authors confirmed advances were normal, and this one was generous. Her rejection of the book deal cost her both money and a publishing opportunity. The publisher had competitive interest in her book concept. Her literary agent dropped her after she rejected a legitimate book deal. Publishing experts said refusing a $35,000 advance was career-destroying stupidity. The advance was non-refundable even if the book wasn't completed successfully. Her distrust of publishing industry norms cost her a writing career. The book she could have written never happened due to her rejection. Other authors would have eagerly accepted the deal she'd turned down. Her assumption that all advance payments are scams was industry ignorant. The publishing contract was standard and reviewed by her agent. Her refusal meant years of unpublished writing with no compensation. The literary world moved on while she rejected legitimate publishing opportunity. 17. A man threw away a $45,000 class action check because the lawsuit name didn't sound familiar to him. The legitimate settlement was for a bank fee lawsuit he'd been automatically included in. His account records showed he'd paid the fees. The lawsuit was compensating. The check was real and issued by the settlement administrator court approved. He'd discarded the check thinking it was junk mail from his bank. The class action settlement had been in national news for months. His forgetfulness about bank fees didn't change his legal eligibility for compensation. The check sat in his trash for days before his wife discovered it. His immediate assumption was that banks don't send large checks to customers. The settlement was legitimate compensation for improper fees he'd actually paid. His rejection nearly cost him $45,000 he was legally entitled to claim. The check required reissuing after being retrieved from garbage. Class action administrators confirmed he was an eligible class member. His assumption that he'd remember every lawsuit he was party to was wrong. The bank fees he'd paid years ago still qualified him for settlement money. His trash-throwing instinct nearly destroyed legitimate legal compensation. Financial advisors said rejecting class action settlements was irrational wealth destruction. The settlement check was issued after years of litigation on his behalf. His forgetfulness about bank fees didn't negate his right to compensation. The wife's trash-checking habit saved them from losing $45,000. His distrust of unexpected checks almost cost a 5-figure windfall. 18. A woman rejected a $70,000 severance package thinking her employer would sue her if she accepted it. The legitimate severance was standard for her position and years of service. Her employment lawyer confirmed the package was generous and non-punitive. She'd refused to sign the severance agreement for 6 months out of paranoia. The company wanted to close her departure amicably with substantial compensation. Her rejection meant leaving with nothing after 20 years of service. The severance included extended benefits and career transition services. Her assumption that accepting severance meant admitting guilt was completely wrong. Employment attorneys tried to explain severance packages were normal, not traps. Her refusal to accept $70,000 shocked HR and legal departments. The severance offer eventually expired per company policy. Her paranoia cost her substantial financial security during job transition. Colleagues who accepted similar packages confirmed they were legitimate and helpful. Her distrust of corporate intentions destroyed her own financial situation. The severance was calculated generously based on her years of loyal service. Her rejection meant job hunting with no financial cushion. The company's offer was above industry standard for her position. Employment experts said her rejection was one of the worst decisions they'd seen. The severance would have covered months of living expenses during her transition. Her fear of legal tricks cost her legitimate departure compensation. The package went away permanently after her refusal to sign. 19. A teacher threw away a $20,000 prize for teaching excellence because she thought awards don't come with actual money. The legitimate prize was from a national teaching organization with decades of history. Her innovative classroom methods had won her the competitive award. Official documentation included the organization's nonprofit tax status and proof. She discarded the notification thinking it was junk mail solicitation. The prize money was real and intended to support her continued teaching excellence. Her rejection meant another teacher received the redirected prize. The teaching organization had selected her from thousands of nominees nationally. She'd refused to return their calls thinking they wanted money from her. Her principal confirmed the organization was reputable and the prize legitimate. The award had been given annually for 20 years with substantial cash prizes. Her assumption that teaching prizes were honorary only was incorrect. The $20,000 prize could have funded classroom projects for years. Fellow teachers were shocked she'd thrown away a prestigious, legitimate award. Educational foundations confirmed the organization's legitimacy with simple research. The award ceremony happened without her because she'd trashed the invitation. Her rejection of $20,000 meant missing both money and professional recognition. The organization never dealt with a winner rejecting such a substantial, legitimate prize. Teaching excellence was supposed to be rewarded, not rejected out of ignorance. Her students lost out on improved resources because of her paranoid rejection. The prize went to the runner-up after she threw away the notification. Her assumption that legitimate prizes don't exist cost her career recognition and money. 20. A man refused a $95,000 inheritance from his father's estate because they'd been estranged and he assumed it was manipulation. The legitimate inheritance was clearly stated in his father's will. His father's last wishes specifically included him despite their relationship difficulties. Legal documentation proved the inheritance was genuine and without conditions. His refusal to accept the money was based on relationship issues, not legal reality. The estate lawyer explained the inheritance had no strings attached legally. His emotional wounds made him reject financial compensation he legally owned. Family members confirmed his father genuinely wanted him to have the money. His rejection meant the inheritance passed to alternate beneficiaries eventually. The money was meant to make amends and provide security regardless of the past. His stubbornness about accepting anything from his father cost him nearly 6 figures. Estate attorneys said refusing inheritance based on estrangement was emotionally understandable but financially foolish. The will was clear and his father's intent was documented. His rejection meant legal complications for the entire estate distribution. Therapists suggested accepting the money didn't mean forgiving his father's past behavior. The inheritance could have funded therapy to process the relationship issues. His refusal was permanent after the estate administration closed. The money he rejected couldn't be recovered after alternate beneficiaries were paid. His emotional response to his father overrode financial common sense. The legitimate inheritance was his by legal right regardless of feelings. His rejection meant losing both closure and financial security from his father's estate. 21. A woman declined a $50,000 research grant because she didn't think her work was important enough for real funding. The legitimate grant was from a national science foundation that had selected her specifically. Her research proposal had been peer-reviewed and rated excellent. Official grant documentation included federal funding numbers and verification. She'd ignored the acceptance deadline thinking there must be better candidates. The grant money was real and designated specifically for her research project. Her imposter syndrome made her reject legitimate scientific funding. The foundation had never encountered a researcher refusing a substantial grant. Her colleagues confirmed the foundation was prestigious and the grant highly competitive. She'd beaten hundreds of other applicants to win the funding. Her rejection meant the grant went to a reserve applicant. The research she could have conducted never happened due to her refusal. Scientific peer reviewers had specifically praised her proposal's merit. Her assumption that her work wasn't grant-worthy was completely wrong. The foundation wanted to fund her research and had allocated the money. Her self-doubt cost her career advancement and research opportunities. Academic advisors said refusing research grants was career-destroying stupidity. The grant would have funded years of important scientific work. Her rejection based on imposter syndrome shocked the entire foundation. The funding was merit-based and she'd legitimately earned it through excellent work. Her refusal meant scientific questions remained unanswered without funding. The grant could have launched her career trajectory substantially. 22. A man rejected a $110,000 settlement from an accident because he didn't believe the other driver had that much insurance. The legitimate settlement was within the policy limits of the at-fault driver. Insurance documentation proved the policy coverage and settlement authority. His injuries justified the settlement amount according to medical records. His refusal to accept the offer meant continuing expensive litigation. The insurance company wanted to settle and had the funds available. His disbelief about insurance coverage amounts was financially ignorant. Legal experts confirmed the settlement was fair for his injury severity. His lawyer nearly withdrew due to his irrational refusal to settle. The settlement would have covered all medical bills with substantial additional compensation. His distrust of insurance companies cost him legitimate injury compensation. The offer eventually was withdrawn after his repeated rejections. His case went to trial where he was awarded less than the settlement. Legal fees consumed most of his trial award that was smaller than the settlement. His rejection of $110,000 cost him tens of thousands in legal fees and reduced compensation. Insurance professionals said policy limits of that amount were completely normal. His ignorance about insurance coverage destroyed his financial recovery. The settlement was calculated by professionals according to industry standards. His stubbornness about disbelieving the coverage cost him substantial money. The trial outcome showed his rejection of the settlement was financially foolish. His medical providers weren't fully paid because he'd rejected the better settlement offer. 23. A teacher refused a $30,000 teaching fellowship because she assumed educational fellowships were unpaid honors only. The legitimate fellowship included substantial salary support during her study year. Her application had been selected from thousands of competitive candidates. Official documentation outlined the fellowship's financial support structure. She'd rejected the acceptance because she assumed she couldn't afford to stop working. The fellowship was specifically designed to replace teaching salary during professional development. Her assumption that fellowships didn't include money was completely incorrect. Fellow teachers confirmed fellowships routinely included financial compensation. Her rejection meant missing a career-enhancing opportunity and the money. The fellowship organization had selected her specifically for professional excellence. She'd thrown away the acceptance packet thinking it was just honorary recognition. The $30,000 stipend would have supported her during the fellowship year. Academic advisors were shocked she'd rejected such a prestigious opportunity. Educational fellowships were specifically funded to allow teacher participation. Her rejection meant the fellowship went to the alternate candidate. The professional development opportunity could have advanced her entire career. Her ignorance about fellowship structures cost her money and advancement. The fellowship had been competitive, and winning it was a significant achievement. Her assumption that she'd have to pay for the fellowship herself was backwards. The organization wanted to support her development with substantial funding. Her rejection based on financial misconceptions was preventable with basic research. 24. A man threw away a $40,000 tax refund check because he'd forgotten he'd overpaid estimated taxes. The legitimate refund was due to his excessive quarterly tax payments. Official IRS documentation explained the refund calculation clearly. He'd assumed the check was fraudulent because he expected to owe money. The tax refund was real and calculated from his own overpayments. His accountant had to explain that refunds can be substantial when overpayment occurs. The check sat in his trash until his wife found it during cleaning. His immediate assumption was that IRS checks were always scams. The refund was his own money being returned after excessive payment. His forgetfulness about his estimated tax payments nearly cost him $40,000. The IRS confirmed the refund was legitimate and properly calculated. His rejection nearly destroyed money that was already his. Financial advisors said throwing away IRS refunds was irrational wealth destruction. The check required reissuing after garbage contamination. His assumption that he always owed taxes was proven wrong by the refund. The overpayment had been sitting with the IRS for months. His trash-throwing instinct nearly cost 5 figures of his own money. The tax professional confirmed large refunds do happen with overpayment. His forgetfulness about quarterly payments didn't negate the refund legitimacy. The wife's discovery saved them from losing a substantial tax refund. His distrust of government checks almost destroyed legitimate money return. 25. A woman rejected a $65,000 signing bonus for a new job because she thought it was a trick to trap her. The legitimate signing bonus was standard for her senior position. The employment contract clearly outlined the bonus as guaranteed compensation. Her paranoia about the too generous offer made her reject the entire job. The company wanted her expertise and offered competitive compensation. Her rejection meant staying in a lower-paying job she wanted to leave. Fellow executives confirmed signing bonuses of that size were industry standard. Her assumption that bonuses were tricks to trap employees was completely wrong. The job offer would have increased her salary by $80,000 annually, plus the bonus. Her refusal to accept the signing bonus meant declining the entire opportunity. Employment attorneys confirmed the contract was standard, with no hidden traps. The signing bonus was immediate money upon starting the new position. Her paranoia cost her both the bonus and the better job. Recruiters said her rejection of the offer was career-limiting foolishness. The company moved on to other candidates after her rejection. Her suspicion of generous compensation kept her in a job she hated. The signing bonus would have immediately improved her financial situation. Industry standards clearly included signing bonuses for senior positions. Her rejection based on distrust destroyed a legitimate career advancement. The contract she rejected was reviewed by legal professionals as standard. Her fear of traps cost her a 6-figure improvement in annual compensation. 26. A teacher threw away a $35,000 prize for curriculum innovation because she didn't believe teaching prizes included real money. The legitimate prize was from a corporate education foundation with substantial funding. Her innovative curriculum design had won a national competitive award. Official prize documentation included the foundation's verification and background. She'd discarded the notification thinking it was junk mail advertising. The prize money was real and intended to fund continued innovation. Her rejection meant another educator received the redirected prize money. The foundation had selected her work from thousands of submissions nationally. She'd refused to return their calls thinking they wanted to sell her something. Her superintendent confirmed the foundation was legitimate with established giving history. The award had been given for 15 years with substantial cash prizes. Her assumption that teaching awards were just certificates was financially ignorant. The $35,000 could have funded her classroom and personal finances. Fellow teachers were shocked she'd thrown away a legitimate competitive prize. Educational research confirmed the foundation's reputation with basic investigation. The award ceremony featured her empty chair because she'd trashed the invitation. Her rejection of $35,000 meant missing professional recognition and substantial money. The foundation rarely encountered winners rejecting such significant legitimate prizes. Teaching innovation was supposed to be rewarded, not rejected, out of paranoia. Her students lost resources that could have been funded by the prize money. The award went to her runner-up after she permanently rejected it. 27. A man refused an $85,000 settlement from a medical malpractice case because doctors settled and he wanted them punished. The legitimate settlement included compensation for his injury and suffering. His lawyer explained that accepting settlement didn't prevent medical board complaints. The settlement was fair compensation regardless of his desire for punishment. His refusal to accept money meant continuing to struggle with medical debt. The healthcare system and legal system operated independently regarding discipline. His rejection of compensation didn't increase punishment for the malpractice. Medical malpractice attorneys confirmed accepting settlements didn't prevent accountability. His emotional need for revenge overrode financial common sense about compensation. The settlement would have resolved his medical bills and provided additional payment. His refusal meant the settlement offer eventually expired. Legal experts said his rejection was emotionally understandable but financially catastrophic. The medical board process was separate from his civil compensation case. His rejection meant receiving nothing after legal fees consumed his resources. The malpractice he'd suffered deserved compensation regardless of other outcomes. His confusion about settlement versus discipline cost him the entire payment. The doctor still faced medical board review regardless of civil settlement. His refusal to accept $85,000 meant permanent financial hardship. Malpractice victims who accepted settlements still pursued other accountability measures. His rejection based on misunderstanding the legal system was preventable. The settlement was legitimate compensation he'd earned through injury. His emotional response destroyed his own financial recovery. 28. A woman declined a $55,000 stock grant from her employer because she didn't trust stock as real compensation. The legitimate stock grant was immediately vested upon issue. Her company's stock was publicly traded with clear market value. The stock grant was real compensation worth $55,000 on grant date. Her refusal to accept it meant the shares went back to the company pool. Fellow employees confirmed stock grants were valuable real compensation. Her distrust of stock market instruments made her reject legitimate payment. The stock could have been immediately sold for cash if she preferred. Her rejection meant losing $55,000 in instant compensation value. Financial advisors said refusing vested stock was throwing away real money. The company's compensation structure included stock grants as standard practice. Her refusal confused HR because the stock was immediately valuable. The grant would have diversified her investment portfolio instantly. Her fear of stock volatility made her reject already vested shares. The stock price actually increased after her rejection, making her loss larger. Her assumption that stock wasn't real money was financially illiterate. The shares she rejected could have funded significant life purchases. Her distrust of investments cost her 5 figures of legitimate compensation. The stock grant was part of her total compensation package she'd negotiated. Her rejection meant other employees received additional shares instead. The company had never dealt with someone refusing vested stock grants. Her fear of complexity cost her easily liquidated valuable shares. 29. A teacher threw away a $28,000 award for community service because she thought civic awards were honorary without payment. The legitimate award included substantial cash prize for her volunteer work. Her years of community service had earned competitive recognition. Official award documentation included the civic organization's verification. She discarded the notification thinking it was just a certificate. The cash prize was real and intended to support continued community work. Her rejection meant another community servant received the redirected prize. The civic organization had selected her from hundreds of nominees. She'd refused to return their calls thinking they wanted volunteer recruitment. Community leaders confirmed the organization gave substantial cash awards. The award program had operated for 30 years with significant prize money. Her assumption that civic recognition was unpaid was completely wrong. The $28,000 could have funded her continued volunteer work. Fellow volunteers were shocked she'd rejected a legitimate competitive award. Civic organizations confirmed such awards routinely included cash prizes. The award ceremony honored her absence because she'd thrown away the invitation. Her rejection meant missing both recognition and substantial money. The organization rarely encountered awardees rejecting significant legitimate prizes. Community service was supposed to be recognized, not rejected out of ignorance. Her volunteer work was diminished by missing the public recognition. The award went to her runner-up after she permanently threw it away. 30. A man rejected a $75,000 bonus pool distribution because he assumed the calculation favored management unfairly. The legitimate bonus was calculated transparently based on company performance metrics. His share was determined by his salary level and performance ratings. Official documentation showed the formula applied equally across all employees. His assumption of unfairness was proven wrong by detailed documentation. His rejection meant his bonus was redistributed to other employees. Company accountants verified the calculation followed stated policy exactly. His paranoia about corporate favoritism destroyed his own compensation. Financial advisors said his refusal was based on conspiracy thinking, not reality. The bonus he rejected went to colleagues who didn't refuse payment. 31. A woman threw away a $42,000 injury settlement check because the envelope looked suspicious to her. The legitimate settlement was from a vehicle accident case resolved months earlier. Her attorney had notified her the settlement check was coming. The envelope's return address was the insurance company she'd been negotiating with. She'd thrown away $42,000 because she didn't recognize the envelope design. Her attorney had to request check reissue after she'd trashed it. The check sat in garbage for days before her attorney discovered the problem. The settlement had been negotiated over months with her full knowledge. The attorney had warned her to expect settlement payment by mail. The insurance company had paid legitimately and she'd thrown it away. 32. A teacher refused a $48,000 sabbatical stipend because she assumed sabbaticals were unpaid leave periods. The legitimate stipend was part of her negotiated employment contract. Her sabbatical year included full salary continuation, plus research support. She declined the sabbatical thinking she couldn't afford unpaid time. The stipend was specifically designed to support her during professional development. Fellow teachers confirmed sabbaticals included full compensation at her school. The school district had budgeted specifically for her sabbatical compensation. Her rejection meant the sabbatical slot went to another teacher. Her ignorance about sabbatical structures cost her money and opportunity. Her assumption that she'd have to sacrifice salary was backwards. 33. A man threw away a $52,000 prize for photography because he thought photo contests were scams. The legitimate prize was from an international photography organization with decades of credibility. His submitted photograph had won a major competitive category. Official prize documentation included the organization's complete background information. He discarded the notification thinking all contest prizes were fraudulent. The prize money was real and intended to support continued photographic work. His rejection meant another photographer received the redirected prize money. The organization had juried thousands of entries from professional photographers worldwide. He'd refused to return their calls thinking they wanted money from him. Photography professionals confirmed the organization gave substantial legitimate prizes. The contest had operated for 40 years with significant cash awards. His assumption that photography contests were all scams was financially ignorant. The $52,000 could have funded equipment and continued artistic work. Fellow photographers were shocked he'd rejected a legitimate, prestigious prize. Photography organizations confirmed such contests routinely included cash prizes. The award ceremony featured his empty seat because he'd trashed the invitation. His rejection meant missing professional recognition and substantial money. The organization rarely encountered winners rejecting such significant legitimate prizes. Photographic excellence was supposed to be rewarded, not rejected out of paranoia. His artistic career was limited by missing the recognition and funding. The prize went to a runner-up after he permanently rejected it. 34. A woman rejected a $68,000 inheritance from her grandmother because she thought family members were trying to trick her. The legitimate inheritance was clearly outlined in her grandmother's will. Legal documentation proved the bequest was genuine and properly executed. Her family members confirmed the inheritance was real and legitimate. Her rejection was based on family conflict, not legal reality. The estate lawyer tried to explain her grandmother genuinely wanted her to have the money. Her paranoia about family manipulation made her reject legitimate inheritance. Family therapy sessions confirmed the inheritance had no strings attached. Her rejection meant the inheritance passed to alternate beneficiaries eventually. The money was her grandmother's final gift regardless of family dynamics. Her stubbornness cost her nearly $70,000 she legally owned. Estate attorneys said refusing inheritance based on family suspicion was financially destructive. The will was clear and her grandmother's wishes were documented. Her rejection complicated the estate distribution for everyone. Therapists suggested accepting money didn't mean trusting problematic family members. The inheritance could have provided financial security despite family issues. Her refusal was permanent after estate administration concluded. The money she rejected couldn't be recovered after others received it. Her emotional response to family overrode financial common sense. The legitimate inheritance was hers by legal right regardless of relationships. Her rejection meant losing both money and her grandmother's final gesture. 35. A teacher threw away a $31,000 grant for classroom technology because she assumed tech grants required personal investment matching. The legitimate grant was fully funded without matching requirements. Official grant documentation clearly stated no matching funds were required. She'd discarded the acceptance packet thinking she couldn't afford the match. The grant money was real and designated specifically for her classroom. Her assumption about matching requirements was completely incorrect. Grant administrators confirmed no personal investment was required. Her rejection meant another classroom received the redirected grant funding. The foundation had selected her proposal from hundreds of applications. She'd refused to return their calls thinking they wanted money from her. Educational grants often came with full funding without matching needs. The $31,000 could have transformed her classroom technology resources. Fellow teachers were shocked she'd rejected fully funded legitimate grant. Grant experts confirmed matching requirements were clearly stated when required. The grant acceptance deadline passed while the letter sat in her trash. Her students lost technology improvements because of her mistaken assumption. The foundation never encountered teachers rejecting fully funded grants. Educational funding was supposed to help not be rejected out of confusion. Her classroom remained under-resourced while she'd rejected substantial funding. The grant went to another teacher who actually read the requirements. Her assumption about matching destroyed a fully funded opportunity completely. 36. A man refused a $62,000 royalty payment from his invented product because he thought the licensing company was scamming him. The legitimate royalty check represented 6 months of sales from his patented design. The licensing agreement he'd signed clearly outlined the payment structure and terms. Official sales reports showed thousands of units had been sold nationwide. He'd assumed the large amount meant fraud despite having a valid contract. The licensing company had paid royalties to hundreds of inventors without issues. His rejection of the check meant it sat in escrow while he investigated unnecessarily. Fellow inventors confirmed the company was reputable with decades of honest business. His paranoia about being cheated made him reject legitimate earned income. The royalty payment was based on actual sales data he could verify. His refusal to cash the check confused the accounting department completely. The payment represented his share of profits from his own invention. His distrust cost him months of investment returns on the uncashed funds. Patent attorneys confirmed the royalty amount was calculated correctly per his agreement. His rejection of $62,000 in earned royalties shocked the licensing industry. The company eventually sent registered letters trying to force him to accept payment. His assumption that companies don't pay inventors fairly was proven wrong. The royalty check was reissued multiple times before he finally accepted it. His paranoia cost him a year of delays in receiving money he'd earned. Financial advisors said rejecting royalty payments was irrational wealth destruction. The legitimate payment was his by contractual right and patent law. 37. A woman declined a $58,000 settlement from a discrimination lawsuit because accepting felt like giving up her principles. The legitimate settlement included compensation for proven workplace discrimination. Her lawyer explained that settling didn't mean the discrimination was acceptable. The settlement represented financial justice regardless of her feelings about compromise. Her rejection meant continuing to struggle while the company faced no consequences. Employment discrimination attorneys said settlements were practical resolutions, not moral compromises. Her refusal to accept money meant the lawsuit eventually was dismissed. Legal experts confirmed settlements didn't invalidate her discrimination claims. Her emotional stance against settling cost her the entire compensation. The settlement would have acknowledged wrongdoing while providing financial remedy. Her principle-based rejection meant receiving nothing after years of legal battle. The company's insurance had offered the settlement wanting to close the case. Her lawyer withdrew after she rejected fair compensation for ideological reasons. Discrimination victims who accepted settlements weren't abandoning their values. Her rejection meant the discrimination went unpunished financially. The $58,000 would have compensated her for career damage and suffering. Her confusion about what settlements meant cost her legitimate payment. Legal precedent clearly showed settlements were valid justice outcomes. Her refusal based on principle left her broke despite being right. Mental health professionals suggested her rejection indicated self-sabotaging behavior. The settlement was compensation she'd earned through suffering discrimination. Her ideological purity cost her practical financial recovery. 38. A teacher threw away a $38,000 grant for arts education because she thought art grants were always political favors, not merit-based. The legitimate grant was awarded through blind peer review by arts professionals. Her innovative arts curriculum had scored highest in competitive evaluation. Official grant documentation included the peer review scores and selection process. She'd discarded the notification assuming it was favoritism, not achievement. The grant money was real and designated for expanding her arts program. Her cynicism about arts funding made her reject legitimate recognition. The Arts Foundation had never encountered a teacher rejecting such substantial funding. Her students lost opportunities for improved arts education because of her rejection. Fellow arts teachers confirmed the foundation awarded grants based purely on merit. The grant had been competitively evaluated by multiple independent reviewers. Her assumption that arts grants were political was completely unfounded. The $38,000 could have transformed her arts program for years. Education experts were shocked she'd rejected a prestigious competitive grant. Arts organizations confirmed such grants routinely went to best proposals. The grant acceptance deadline passed while she refused to engage. Her rejection meant another arts program received the redirected funding. The foundation used blind review specifically to prevent favoritism she assumed existed. Her cynicism cost her students years of enhanced arts education. The grant was merit-based and she'd legitimately earned it through excellent work. Her distrust of arts institutions destroyed a legitimate achievement. 39. A man rejected a $72,000 workers' compensation settlement because he thought accepting meant admitting partial fault. The legitimate settlement compensated his workplace injury without any fault admission. His lawyer explained settlements didn't imply he was at fault for his injury. The compensation was for medical bills and lost wages regardless of fault. His rejection meant continuing to live in pain without financial support. Workers' compensation attorneys said settlements were standard without fault implications. His refusal to accept money meant medical bills went unpaid unnecessarily. Legal experts confirmed accepting compensation didn't admit any fault whatsoever. His confusion about settlement meaning cost him the entire payment. The settlement would have covered his treatment and provided ongoing support. His principle about not appearing to admit fault left him struggling financially. The company's insurance wanted to pay and close the workers' comp case. His lawyer nearly withdrew due to his irrational refusal to settle. Workers' compensation was no fault by design, and settlements reflected that. His rejection meant the settlement offer eventually expired per legal timelines. The workplace injury had caused permanent damage deserving compensation. His misunderstanding of workers' comp law cost him legitimate payment. Legal precedent showed settlements didn't imply fault in workers' comp cases. His refusal based on pride destroyed his own financial recovery. The $72,000 was compensation he'd earned through workplace injury. His fear of appearing at fault cost him years of financial security. 40. A woman threw away a $44,000 prize for her small business because she assumed business contests were pyramid schemes. The legitimate prize was from a national entrepreneurship foundation with government backing. Her innovative business model had won a major competitive category. Official prize documentation included the foundation's federal credentials and history. She'd discarded the notification, thinking it was a multi-level marketing trap. The prize money was real and intended to fund business expansion. Her rejection meant another entrepreneur received the redirected prize money. The foundation had evaluated thousands of business plans from startups nationwide. She'd refused to return their calls, thinking they wanted to recruit her. Business consultants confirmed the foundation was reputable with established giving history. The competition had operated for 25 years with substantial legitimate prizes. Her assumption that business contests were scams was completely wrong. The $44,000 could have funded critical expansion for her struggling startup. Fellow entrepreneurs were shocked she'd rejected a prestigious legitimate prize. Business organizations confirmed such contests routinely included cash prizes. The award ceremony featured her empty chair because she'd trashed the invitation. Her rejection meant missing both recognition and substantial funding. The foundation rarely encountered winners rejecting such significant legitimate prizes. Entrepreneurial excellence was supposed to be rewarded, not rejected out of paranoia. Her business struggled without the funding she'd rejected. The prize went to her runner-up after she permanently threw it away. 41. A teacher refused a $54,000 retention bonus because she thought it was a trick to lock her into an unfair contract. The legitimate bonus was offered to retain excellent teachers with no strings attached. The contract addendum clearly stated the bonus had no extended commitment requirements. Her school district wanted to keep quality teachers and offered competitive compensation. She'd rejected the bonus, thinking it meant signing away her resignation rights. Employment attorneys confirmed the bonus had no unusual terms or requirements. Her refusal to accept $54,000 shocked district administration completely. Fellow teachers confirmed receiving retention bonuses without any problematic commitments. Her paranoia about hidden contract terms made her reject legitimate compensation. The bonus was simply recognition of her teaching value with no tricks. Her distrust of administrative intentions cost her 5 figures of earned money. The retention program was designed specifically to reward and keep good teachers. Her refusal meant the bonus went into the general district budget, unused. Teaching contracts allowed resignation regardless of bonus acceptance, as state law required. Her assumption that bonuses always came with traps was completely unfounded. The $54,000 would have immediately improved her financial situation substantially. Her rejection based on distrust destroyed compensation she'd earned through excellence. The school district wanted to pay her more, and she'd refused it. Contract law experts said retention bonuses rarely included unusual commitments. Her fear of being locked in cost her legitimate teaching compensation. The bonus offer eventually expired after her repeated refusals to accept it. 42. A man threw away a $47,000 restitution check from a criminal case because he didn't believe criminals ever paid victims back. The legitimate restitution was court-ordered and enforced by the criminal justice system. The defendant had been forced to pay as condition of probation and sentencing. Official court documentation showed the restitution amount and payment schedule. He'd discarded the check thinking criminals never actually compensated victims. The restitution money was real and collected by the state before being distributed. His rejection nearly cost him court-ordered compensation for his losses. Criminal justice advocates confirmed restitution checks were legitimate when court-ordered. His trash-throwing instinct almost destroyed money he was legally owed. The check sat in garbage until his lawyer discovered it wasn't cashed. His immediate assumption was that victim restitution was just symbolic, not real. The criminal had been paying monthly installments overseen by the court system. His rejection nearly meant the restitution returning to the court unclaimed. Financial advisors said throwing away restitution checks was irrational wealth destruction. The court system specifically collected and distributed restitution to crime victims. His distrust of the criminal justice system almost cost him legitimate payment. Legal experts confirmed court-ordered restitution was enforced and paid regularly. His assumption that criminals don't pay was proven wrong by the check. The restitution represented compensation for losses he'd actually suffered. His trash-throwing reflex nearly destroyed 5 figures of court-ordered payment. The check required reissuing after being retrieved from garbage by his attorney. 43. A woman rejected a $66,000 insurance payout for storm damage because she assumed her cheap policy couldn't pay that much. The legitimate insurance claim was approved based on documented property damage. Her homeowner's policy had adequate coverage despite her believing it was minimal. The storm damage assessment justified the payout amount completely according to adjusters. Her refusal to accept the check confused the insurance claims department entirely. Insurance policies often covered more than policyholders realized without reading them. Her rejection meant living in damaged property while refusing repair funds. Fellow policyholders confirmed the insurance company paid legitimate claims reliably. Her assumption about her policy limits was completely incorrect. The insurance adjuster tried to explain her coverage was actually quite comprehensive. Her distrust of insurance payouts made her reject legitimate storm compensation. The payout was calculated by professional adjusters following standard procedures. Her refusal to accept $66,000 delayed critical home repairs for months. Insurance experts said her policy clearly outlined the coverage she'd been paying for. Her rejection of the claim meant the money sat in insurance company accounts. The storm damage worsened while she refused funds to repair it. Her confusion about her own policy cost her immediate access to needed funds. Financial advisors confirmed insurance companies paid legitimate claims regularly. Her assumption that cheap policies couldn't pay substantial claims was wrong. The payout was hers by contractual right, based on her premium payments. Her rejection nearly made the claim become abandoned per policy terms. 44. A teacher threw away a $36,000 professional development award because she thought professional awards were just honorary titles without money. The legitimate award included substantial funding for continued education and research. Her innovative teaching methods had earned competitive national recognition. Official award documentation included the professional organization's complete funding information. She'd discarded the notification thinking it was just a congratulatory certificate. The award money was real and intended to support her continued professional growth. Her rejection meant another educator received the redirected award funding. The professional organization had selected her from thousands of teacher members. She'd refused to return their calls thinking they wanted membership dues. Teaching professionals confirmed the organization gave substantial cash awards regularly. The award program had operated for decades with significant funding attached. Her assumption that professional recognition was unpaid was financially ignorant. The $36,000 could have funded advanced degrees or important research projects. Fellow teachers were shocked she'd thrown away a legitimate, prestigious award. Professional organizations confirmed such awards routinely included substantial funding. The award ceremony honored her absence because she'd trashed the invitation and information. Her rejection meant missing both professional recognition and substantial money simultaneously. The organization rarely encountered award recipients rejecting such significant legitimate prizes. Professional excellence was supposed to be rewarded, not rejected out of ignorance. Her teaching career advancement was limited by missing the recognition and funding. The award went to her runner-up after she permanently threw away the notification. 45. And finally, a man rejected a $78,000 profit-sharing distribution from his company because he thought profit sharing was only for executives. The legitimate profit sharing was company policy, applying equally to all eligible employees. His years of service and performance qualified him for the maximum distribution. Official company documentation outlined the profit-sharing formula and eligibility. Fellow employees confirmed receiving their profit-sharing distributions without any issues. The company had established the program specifically to reward all employees fairly. The profit-sharing distribution was based on actual company profits he'd helped generate. Financial advisors said rejecting profit sharing was irrational rejection of earned compensation. His rejection was based on assumptions about corporate inequality that weren't accurate. The distribution he rejected represented years of his contribution to company success, proving that financial paranoia can make people reject fortunes they actually earned, demonstrating that distrust of systems can be more harmful than the systems themselves, and showing that verifying facts before rejecting money would save people from throwing away legitimate fortunes they absolutely deserve. These rejection disasters prove that excessive paranoia and financial illiteracy cost people fortunes they actually legally owned and deserved. Subscribe if these fortune rejections shocked you as much as they shocked us, and maybe take 5 minutes to verify before rejecting the next opportunity that seems surprisingly good.